welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Rye and this is Rye's Reading Corner, and today I am bringing you my most anticipated releases of 2021. So I can't believe I am making this video already because it does not seem possible that 2020 is almost over with. It was the longest and shortest year possible, but I'm excited to see what 2021 brings, and there are definitely some really good books that are being released in 2021. So I have 16 books that I'm super excited about that will be released next year. There's probably way more books than I will be sharing with you, and I'll probably do another video at some point, but these are the 16 books that have caught my eye recently. So these are not in any particular order of when they're being released because I have them all on my Goodreads account. So if you notice I'm looking down a lot, it's because I am on my computer on my Goodreads account. So the very first book that I'm super excited about is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is the prequel to The Hate U Give. This is following her father and her father's story of where he had come from, and then finding out that he is pregnant with his first child, which was a son. I'm really excited. The Hate U Give was an amazing book. I'm thinking of maybe reading it again because it has been a while since I've read it prior to reading this book, but I'm sure if it's anything as good as The Hate U Give, I'm sure I will absolutely love this. And this book is being released on January 12th. So probably be one of the very first books that I buy in 2021. Next book that I'm super excited about, and I'm also going to be co-hosting and my guest on the Sugar and Spice book club with my girls Amanda and Kirsten, and we'll be reading this book, and it is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the third book in the Brown Sister series. It follows Eve Brown, which is the youngest of the three sisters. I am so excited because these romance books I absolutely love. I love Talia Hibbert's writing. I love the banter that they have between like our main male and our main female character. Just everything about it is amazing. I love the body rep on the cover of the book. Just, it's perfect. And I know there'll be some steamy scenes because it's Talia Hibbert. So there's nothing else I can ask for. Again, this is a love story between Eve Brown and it looks like someone named Jacob Wayne. And he's a bed and breakfast owner, which I like the bed and breakfasts and inns in my stories. So I'm really excited. I feel like Eve Brown is the least I know. Like, I don't know that much about her going into the book. So I'm really excited to learn more about her. And also in her other books, she has referenced the other sisters as well. Like in Danny's book, she mentions Chloe, so I'm excited to see kind of a catch up on what's going on with both Chloe and Danny. And this book is being released on March 9th. So also be check out on the Sugar and Spice book club because we'll be talking about it and I can't wait. Okay, so the next one I am super excited about is a series that I binged this year, but it's not a long series, they're short books, but it is the Wayward Children series. Book number 6 is coming out, and it is Across the Green Fields, and this is by Shaun McGuire. I love these fantasy books. The worlds that you go into are amazing. What I like about them is that they each kind of cover a different thing. So like a lot of times they will have like some of the books will follow the same plot line, then other ones will go back to like the original, like the characters of where they kind of like originate from. So I think that's why I like her book so much. For this book, we are following a girl who discovers a portal to a land filled with centaurs and unicorns, and her name is Reagan, and I'm just so excited about this one. So Reagan, I don't think it's a character we've been introduced to yet in like the other books, so this will be a new plot line. Unless I'm wrong, I could be wrong. But this is a book that I'll definitely be buying as soon as it comes out, which I believe is January 12th. It's only 176 pages, so I'll probably read it in like one day. But I'm super excited to dive back into this world that Shaun McGuire has created. And I feel really bad that I keep looking down at my screen, but this is the only way I can get all my information. All right, so the next book is another series that I love. It's called Girls with Rebel Souls by Suzanne Young. It's the third book in the Girls with Sharp Sticks series. I talk about this series quite a bit on my quite a bit on my channel, as well as Suzanne Young, because I feel like she is not talked about enough. One of my favorite series, The Program, was written by her. I've read all of those books. There was 6 in that series, and I'm obviously continuing with this series as well. If you're not familiar with this series, it's about a society where these girls, if their parents had paid for them, they go into this academy, which pretty much just makes them into prized possessions for men and treated to obey men. But it's a lot more to it, some science fiction. It's just really good, and it's kind of complex, but I love this book, this series. So I don't want to tell you too much about what this book is going to be about, because I don't want to spoil the entire series. But I highly suggest to pick the series up, read it, so that you can read Girls with Rebel Souls. Just the title, like Girls with Rebel Souls. I love some strong, badass female characters, and you 100% get this in this series. And this is being released on March 23rd is the anticipated release date. Obviously, these are all probably subject to change. Obviously, with COVID, a lot of things changed in the spring, but as of right now, I'm excited for this one. All right, the next one is a graphic novel that I read this year. I just started reading graphic novels, and this one is Delicates by Brianna, and it is the sequel to Sheets. And she pretty much finds this group of family of ghosts living in her family's laundromat who died really young, and wandering the earth as a ghost with nothing more than a sheet for a body, and it really becomes one of her only friends. And it deals with a lot of tough life issues that this girl is going through at a young age, with the assistance of her friend that is a ghost, helps her get through. So I'm really excited for Sheets. I don't really know much about it, but again, a lot of these are sequels, so I don't want to go into much about them, because if you've not read the sequel, then you obviously, I don't want to spoil anything for you. But I love the drawing and the colors of them. They're really kind of like this pastel-y colors, the kind of the first one, and then I like this cover with these pops of pink and yellow, super pretty, and I'm really excited to kind of see what else happens in this series. Okay, so the next one is by an author that I first read this year, and that is TJ Klune, and he's releasing a new book called Under the Whispering Door, and this is being released on March 2nd, and it's a 400-page book, so it's going to be a little bit of a chunker. So it pretty much says, when a reporter comes to collect Wallace Price from his own funeral, Wallace suspects he really might be dead. Instead of leading him directly to the afterlife, the Reaper takes him to a small village. On the outskirts of the path through the woods, tucked between mountains, is a particular tea shop run by a man named Hugo. Hugo is the tea shop's owner to locals and the ferryman to souls who need to cross over. So we're going to be going into, again, that fantasy world that we did for like The House of the Cerulean Sea, which I really enjoyed his writing. But Wallace isn't ready to abandon the life he barely lived. With Hugo's help, he finally starts to learn about the things he missed in life. And yeah, so I'm really excited. It sounds like a story that mixes with grief and hope. And if it's anything like how much his writing style of The House on the Cerulean Sea, I'm sure I'll really like this book. Okay, so the next book that I'm super excited about is, again, by an author that I read for the first time in 2020. And my goal is to read all his back books before this book comes out later in the year. And this is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. So I read Home Before Dark. It was a 5-star reader for me, probably one of my top 10 of the actually entire year. And so I'm really excited to read his new book. So this takes place in 1991. And Josh Baxter is man behind the wheel, a virtual stranger to Charlie. They met on a campus ride board, each looking for sure the long drive home to Ohio. So it's kind of like a road trip thriller. So this is common. People will pick up rides just to go home. I mean, it's probably not as common today because people are more skeptical about things, but it still does happen. And then there's something happens, and there's like a game of cat and mouse while they're on the road. I'm excited. It doesn't come out till July 6th. So my goal is to read Riley Sager's back books before I pick this one up. I don't know if that will happen since I'm having my baby in April, but we'll try. But I'm super excited to dive into one of other Riley Sager's books, and I hope it lives up to my love for Home Before Dark. So we'll see. All right, so the next book I'm really excited about is called One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This book has been talked about, I feel like, a lot. It has a lot of hype coming up to it. It has kind of this, it's a sapphic romance, but there's also some fantasy type aspects to it. It takes place in the 1970s in Brooklyn, and a 23-year-old girl finds a crush on the subway. However, she can't get off the subway, I believe. And that's kind of like the fantasy aspect of it. I've heard a lot of good things on Goodreads so far. It has 504 ratings and it's a 4.52, which is really pretty good so far. And this is going to be released on May 6th. So I'm really excited. I love a sapphic romance, and then throw in some of that fantasy realism. I think that's a perfect combination. The next book is by another author that I fell in love with in 2020 with her debut novel. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. She is releasing another novel, which is awesome that she's releasing like so quickly back to each other. I love it. It's called Rise to the Sun, and it says 3 days, 2 girls, 1 life-changing musical festival. So we have one girl who's grieving the loss of her father, and she's desperate to get back into loving music, and Olivia is a hopeless romantic, and they go to a festival, and sounds like it's a sapphic romance, which I just am all for, and I'm so excited for this book. It releases on July 6th. I absolutely loved Leah Johnson's first book. To me, it did not read like a debut novel, so I can't even imagine how good this novel is going to be and well written if that was how the standards of her first novel. So I have a lot of high expectations for her, which maybe isn't fair, but I do. All right, so the next book is The Project by Courtney Summers. And I believe this is a YA thriller, I want to say. Trying to look on Goodreads if it will tell me. Courtney Summers is pretty well known for a lot of different books. And it talks about Dee is used to being on her own after her parents died. She joined the Unity, joined the Unity Project, leaving Lo in the care of her great aunt. The Unity Project is one of the hearts and minds of most in the upstate New York region, which I live in upstate New York, so any book that is about kind of where I live, like I'm totally sign me up for it. And it sounds like a man shows up at the magazine Lo works for, claiming the Unity Project killed his son. And there's like an investigation, and it talks about cults, and I love books about cults. So it just has everything going for it for me. So I'm super excited for this book. It gets released February 2nd, so early in the year, so I'll definitely be picking it up. And I'm really excited. She is known for writing Sadie, which was a great book, a super popular book. And yeah, so I cannot wait to read The Project by her. The next book that I'm super excited about is The Woods Are Always Watching by Stephanie Perkins. And this is a contemporary horror novel, and I have not read her other book, but it looks like here on Goodreads it's going to be made into a Netflix feature. There's Someone Inside Your House. I don't really know much about it, but maybe I'll look into it before reading this one. It's this horror story set in the woods of the Finnish National Forest in the Blue Ridge Mountains. There's 2 girls that go backpacking in the woods. Things go wrong, and they come in path of a serial killer. So it seems interesting to me. It's not a super long read. It's only 304 pages. It doesn't get released till August 3rd, so there's some time before this comes out. But I'm excited. A horror story that takes place in the woods that come with a serial killer. It sounds super interesting. So I'm signing me up for that one too. All right, so the next one is by an author that, again, I read this year in 2020. 2020, I read a lot of new authors. And it's The X Talks by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I read her book Tonight, Tomorrow. And I absolutely loved that story. So I'm really excited to kind of see what her new story will be all about. It talks about the main character is Shay. She's been a producer at a Seattle public radio station for like 10 years. And there's, she has never really imagined working anywhere else, but recently there has been a new colleague, and there's some kind of tension between them. And yeah, so something goes on with their co-host. I don't really know much about it, but it sounds good. And it's called The X Talks, and it becomes a must-listen radio show in Seattle and climbs the podcast. But as the show gets bigger, so does their deception. So it sounds like there's some lying in there. And then they start to fall for each other. So I like this. Maybe they're like enemies to lovers, maybe enemies, friends to lovers. I like that trope. I know a lot of people sometimes don't enjoy it, but I'm all for it. So it sounds really good and I'm really excited. And I liked Rachel and Solomon's other book, so I'm willing to give this one a try as well. All right, so the next one is an adult romance book. A lot of different genres on here. I don't like just read one genre, I would say. I read a lot of different ones. And this is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. She wrote The Beach Read, which I really liked and enjoyed. I read that this year. So we have two characters named Poppy and Alex. I love the name Poppy. They have nothing in common, and it sounds like they were maybe had known each other, and then they like were not with each other. I don't know. This is probably a terrible summary of it. And then 2 years ago when they ruined everything, they haven't spoken since. And now she has a week to fix everything, and she can only get around to one big truth. It always stood quietly in the middle of their seemingly perfect relationship. What could possibly go wrong? Sounds like it's a fun romance story. Like I said, really enjoyed Beach Read. I think what I liked about Beach Read, it was more than just a simple romance to me. There was more complex things discussed. So I'm hoping that will be like this in this book as well. And the release date for this one is May 11th. So just in time for a fun summer romance read. All right, so I have another graphic novel here. And this is Heartstopper Volume 4 by Austinoseman. If you have not read any of these books, please, please, please go read them. They're such quick reads. It follows a boy, two high school, or I think they're like maybe high school, college boys. I don't remember. I haven't read it in quite some time. And them falling in love and one coming to terms with his sexuality. But there's a lot of hard topics. There's definitely some trigger warnings for this series. And I don't even know like where this series is going to go, and I'm so excited. And it sounds like they're ready to start saying, you know, I love you to each other. And it's just a great, good series that's not just this romance, but covers a lot of serious and important topics in a short amount of pages. So I'm all for that. All right, the next book is called Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee. Says Felix Ever After meets Becky Albertalli in the swoon-worthy heartfelt rom-com about a transgender teen's first love challenges his ideas about perfect relationships. That's all I had to read right there, and I know that's something that I'm interested in. I've read a couple other books this year, like Felix Ever After, Stay Gold, which is a favorite book of mine, that has about this idea of a transgender falling in love and kind of going through that process and trying to figure that all out. So I'm really excited and for this book and to see what it's about. I've never read anything by this author before, so it'll be a new to me author this year, which I love discovering new authors. And the release date for this one is May 4th. Trying to make this, guys, as quickly as possible. And we're on the last book, and I just added this book after I read his 2020 release, and that is a book by Peter Swanson, and it's Every Value Break. I read 8 Perfect Murders just recently, which I know is really a book, opinionated book, where people either love it or they either hate it. I really enjoyed the book, so I want to read his other books as well. And it says a bride's dream honeymoon becomes a nightmare when a man with whom she has a regrettable one-night stand shows up in the electrifying psychological thriller from the acclaimed author of 8 Perfect Murders. So it sounds good, and longer than 8 Perfect Murders, which I'm like happy about, because I feel like 8 Perfect Murders was just too short for me. It's 320 pages, so still not long, but I think like that's a good amount of pages for a thriller. And I like that it was a slow burn, so I'll be curious to see if this is like a slower paced thriller novel as well. And the release date for this one is March 23rd, so maybe I can read some of his backlisted work before I read this one. So 16 books that I'm super excited about. I will be updating as the year goes on in 2021 about if I have read these books, so I've lost interest in them, and my thoughts on them. I'm hoping that I do get to all 16 throughout the year, which is not like a hard goal for me to reach since I read 103 books so far this year. I'm sure there's a lot more books that are out there that I will love, so I'll probably make another video sometime next year with other anticipated releases. So if you're excited about any of these releases, let me know below. If there's any other releases that I should check out, please let me know that too. I'm always looking for authors that I don't know about, or there might be books that authors that I love that I just don't know that they're releasing new novels yet. So I'm super excited. Let me know. So if you're new to my channel and you'd like to take this journey with me, please press that subscribe button. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you never want to miss any of my content, please press that notification button. And if you want to be my friend on any of my other social media platforms, all that information is listed below. And yeah, stay kind, loves, and I'll see you next time.